Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Euro Trade with myself, Market Stalker D, aka Deeyana Angelo. If you're here for the first time, I've been trading for 18 years, and 13 years out of that I've been in the futures markets, specializing in some of the more unusual products, such as copper and crude oil and gasoline futures. So basically commodities. Right now I'm short copper. I will explain why. If you follow me on Twitter, you might have noticed my post about the bracket on a very large time frame. Now, copper just rolled, so that's obviously sometimes a reason for a bracket. But sometimes they have these unwinding positions ahead of the new month as well. However, let me just find it. So this is what I was looking at, right? A big daily time frame, and these are the overlapping values from COMEX. Now, whenever this happens, it's kind of like a consolidation, but it's a little bit messier and not always obvious to see. And when that happens, it could be a sign of a distribution and then liquidation. So today I was looking for some evidence that some sellers are around. At the moment, we're hanging below the put support area, former put support from 0 DTEs. We're trying to move away from VWAP and also extending the initial balance to the downside. Now, if this was to hold to the downside, we do need to hang below 486, which is the minor GEX level, GEX 4, but still, that's the next orientation point. And then after that, we have the big boy to tackle, which is the London value high. If we accept value, that should be a very good sign. If we don't accept value, then I have to reevaluate. But for now, I'm kind of front-running this trade idea that we are going to go into a short. And if we look at how the daily chart is looking, you know, there was a sign of a bit of a slowdown, slight attempt at creating a new demand, but that one failed, and now we're below this entire structure. So let's see what happens. Let's stay patient. The initial balance is very small today. I mean, very small. It's like 32 ticks. It's nothing for copper. So this could be either the beginning of a very big day, or we could have a day that does absolutely nothing. So it's either one extreme or the other. So yeah. Dave's Pirate Life says, "Did you miss me?" Of course, Dave. I missed you a lot. I was wondering where you were. How are the monkeys doing? Darth says, only thing I would watch is 6A. I don't, so I don't trade Aussie dollar because it's a bit meh. It's like tick-wise size intraday. It basically is not the best product if you're looking for the amount of ticks that I am. I used to trade cross pairs, but on futures you can't do that because you would have to create them synthetically. Like you would have to, basically, if you wanted to do something like GBP Aussie, you would have to do a position in 6B and then also in 6A. So it's a little bit tricky, but it's been years since I've been trading Forex because it kind of dried up during the austerity measures and it never really came back. Although Euro is doing a little bit better, the rest of them are still on the quieter side. However, you are right that there is a huge connection both between copper and gold. And the reason for that is because Australia is one of the larger exporters of both of those metals. So naturally, there will be a huge connection. However, I like to trade the actual commodity behind the moves rather than the currency of the country, which has gone a little bit iffy in the last 12 to 15 years or so. which was actually the reason why I went into futures, if we're going to be honest. So I traded euro dollar almost exclusively for 5 years. And then I decided that that's no longer the case. We used to have moves in euro dollar that were like 150 pips per day. And I would hold trades, swing trades for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And I would make a killing of like over 2,000 ticks, aka pips, is the same thing. And then that changed in 2012. Everything got locked down. And then I spent a whole year watching it move like 30 ticks per day. So I was like, what is going on? And it was because all of the interest rates got down to near zero. So the momentum that you would need to have that nice carry trade, and typical carry trade currencies were either JPY or the Aussie, because traditionally those countries used to have interest rates that were markedly higher than some of the other countries. So that would like cause this momentum to happen underneath. So when that went away, that momentum went away as well, right? Now, some people told me that, oh, but you know, the whole interest rates have gone up. Yeah, but they've gone up the same way. That's still not good. You need to have that differential. So I'm still not in favor of trading currencies purely from that, you know, fundamental side of things where you kind of eke out like 30 ticks after 3 hours. That is not the kind of trade that I'm looking for. But it's a very personal preference, I suppose. When it comes to the commodities, I don't feel like I need to watch anything else apart from the commodities. And especially if somebody's a newer trader, getting lost in, you know, some correlations that have pretty much broken down over the last few years and are highly unreliable will probably just put an overload of information into your brain and quite possibly cause analysis paralysis. So we don't want to be doing that, obviously. All right, so while we wait, how's everybody doing? What's happening? Did everybody have a good weekend? Do let me know in chat. I see some familiar names here. We've got Rita, we've got Wes, we've got Dave's Pirate Life, we've got Tostino, T3 Metrics, hello, Brian S, okay, Teo, yeah, some, so the gang is back together, right? But yeah, it is Monday, so we need to not do like a million trades right off the bat. However, this seems like a decent attempt. So yeah, I do need it to stay below the structure. Let's see what the 15-minute chart is doing. So we did have a decent volume to the downside here when we smashed. No follow through yet. But again, the way copper likes to do things, it gets a bit quiet this time of the day, and then it kind of retests areas and blah, blah, blah. So we just need to wait. This put support from the 0DT on Friday, that is the area that I'm looking at. So if we break that, I'm going to have to reevaluate, but that's fine. So for now, we just sit and wait. Shadow Voices, do you have a background in economics or something like that? Absolutely not. I was a session musician for 20 years, since 1994 till about 2014. And yeah, but over the years I did have two qualifications. So the most recent one is a Series 3, which I had to do for Topstep. But before then, I had the similar thing. It was technically called IAD, so it was like RDR compliance, whatever. But yeah, so I do, obviously after you've been doing something for 2 decades, you develop quite a bit of knowledge. But no, I don't come from any sort of an economic background, which is why I ended up in prop rather than working for an actual bank or something. Because I wanted to be a trader, but I was already at that point 27, 28. Then I had my own account for 5 years, so I was pretty fortunate to do okay as a musician. And I traded that up until 2012, and then in 2013 I thought to myself, I want to make this into a career. And I couldn't, at 32 years of age, I couldn't really, it was a bit too late to start going to school again and everything, so I just went down the route of prop trading, found an apprenticeship, And that's where they started teaching me about things like volume profile. And I thought, wow, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And then over the years, I just worked on getting my knowledge and my experience more developed, I suppose. So it was mostly self-taught, but with great help through some of my mentors, one of which is Hogue. So when I found Topstep when I came back from Chicago, I was looking for a Chicago-based firm where I could maybe work remotely, and Topstep popped up. That's how I found them. I became one of the first, actually the first female trader to get funded back in 2015, I think it was. Long time ago, right? So after that, I did an interview for them, got to know everybody, and then I was frequently invited to be a part of this Quark Radio, which was kind of like TopstepTV. So in case you don't know, I have been with Topstep on and off in some shape or form for 10 years now. So yeah, so there it is. Yeah, let's see. Oh, Dave says you're moving to Saigon. Interesting. Is that Ho Chi Minh City? Is that what I'm thinking? Because I was there for Heineken Festival back in the day. God, I can't believe that so many. I feel so old, or I feel like it's another lifetime. Testino wants to know, hey Dee, from your coaching experience, how have you reduced the trader's excitement? I get too excited when an A-star setup is forming. I jump in too early, end up with no balance left to play. It's time for the parrots to come out. Now, I'm still working on this. Eddie is actually showing me how to do ventriloquism, but I'm going to say, size down, slow down. First step is to size down, slow down, okay? Just by the fact that you're like saying, I have no balance left after you do one trade. Why do you have no balance left after one trade? How big of a size are we talking? So size down, slow down. That'll be the very, very first step to stop getting excited. And now the second part is, because you are obviously trading with size, clearly that trade, if it does work, it ends up accounting for like a major size of your balance. That's probably the core part of your excitement as well, because it's like, oh, it's nice chunk of cash. But if you size down to the point where it is a star setup, but it's not going to markedly change your balance, you won't be hitting into that kind of euphoric part of your brain to get super excited. Oh, I just love it when on Mondays they decide not to follow through and then just to come back into the range. But I'm going to let it do whatever, because this is going to be the only trade that I do if this doesn't work out. Why? Because I'm not itching to do another one if they don't immediately start pushing lower. And right now, we're hanging above the put support area, still inside the initial balance, so this really needs to, let's see what's going on lower time frames. Yeah, so if you are still finding yourself super excitable, or even upset if you are, doing the, getting upset over losses as well, that's kind of a part of it. The loss is too big, and then you get upset because you put a huge dent in your balance. So if you don't go for the full sizes and minis versus micros, you will find that it might be a star setup, but if it only brings you like $70, are you really gonna get that excited over that? I don't know. I know I wouldn't. So yeah. So yeah, try that. If you're still having issues with excitement, do exercise. So do weightlifting before and during as well, right? And try to define some of the entry rules as well. Rather than you say you go in early, like so many things to unpack in this this statement, you jump in too early. Does that mean you don't have a clearly defined entry rules? Because you know my my little ribbon here, the ribbon here. So I use that as a timing tool. 2 minutes looks better for this purpose. So for example, if you get a strong, like I got a signal actually up here for an entry, because I have a clearly defined rule that we are going to go below. So obviously I have a direction for the trade, which is short, and then also an idea of what trade location I want to have, and that was somewhere around the initial balance. So once we went down, the entire ribbon was sitting well above the price action structure that we had at the time, right? So that's why I'm in this trade. And then we got into a little bit of a range, which is all right, it's fine. But that's my clearly defined rule for entry, right? It's not like, oh, I think it's going to go. No, I have initial balance extension lower. I have test of the initial balance low. I also have the 9 EMA ribbon showing me the price action has fallen below it completely. Okay. Now, yes, if you get stuck in a range, then this is not the right thing. Then you would have to almost use the ribbon for the opposite purpose. Whenever you go under it, you long. Whenever you go above it, you short. But I'm not looking for a range-bound trade today, purely because the initial balance is so small. And I don't really care much about a range trade at this point. If I'm proven wrong, and if we get to COMEX, we're still in the same area, or I'm completely wrong on direction as well, I will have to completely reevaluate. But I'm probably not going to be long copper at these levels. Probably not, right? Maybe if we move away from it significantly, maybe if we cannot break the London value high, maybe I will, you know. But it's all well defined, okay? It's not like, oh, I've got a level, I'm plowing in. It's like, is there evidence that somebody else is maybe looking at this rather than me just, you know, being here trading a one lot and going, interesting. Somebody else with deeper pockets needs to be interested in the same trade that you're interested in to push it along. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have enough volume. So yeah. Tostino says that my edge and rules work. I traded a 1 month company account with the firm and was top 150 with over 100% gain. No oversized excitement because I didn't have the potential to improve my life. Is that mindset? It's always going to be mindset. I mean, unless you're like very new, I'm talking like you started, I don't know, like 6 months ago or something. And I know you didn't. I know you're more experienced than that. It's going to be mindset. By now, you know what your levels look like. It's just all of the stuff that happens, you know, it's usually PBKC, right? Problem between keyboard and chair error. It's not the strategy, it's not the level. You know, level has two options. It's either going to work or it ain't, right? And if you're trying to do similar size to what you were doing on that other account, on these sort of accounts, it's not going to work because it's too much size. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, why are you getting excited to find a star setup? Like, does that come very rarely for you? Like, do you only see it like once every 2 weeks or a month? Because for me, I have star setups cropping up across different products probably about 3-4 times a day. You know, I probably don't take all of them. Some days I do if I'm you know, watching them. But on some days I will be doing other things. I'm like, okay, I already did one trade. Or I'm already in a trade, so you know I'm in one of these copper trades that sometimes last for like 3-4 hours, and it's you know, it's one of those well, it's definitely a mindset thing. So anything that you can do, visualizing how it feels to not get excited in a trade. That might be one visualization exercise that you want to do. What could you do in another way? Obviously, resistance training. So if you're struggling with that, resistance training. You don't say whether you get anxious or not. So E. Mohammadi says, I started 2 months ago. Am I cooked? You'll probably experience some beginner's luck, but then, as soon as, like, we all had the same thing. So when I first started, my first trade in 2007 was putting on a long on Intel and it working out. And it was just like, I put $500 in an account and I put all of it on one trade. No stop loss, of course. What is a stop loss? I had no idea. I was so green. And it went my way. So it's like quite possibly the worst thing that can happen to you. It actually went to $4,000 profit. So I was like, oh, $4,500. Yes, this is easy. I don't know why people think this is difficult. And then the very next week he came back on me. Of course, I didn't take profit. Because again, I didn't know you were supposed to. I was like, as green as they come. Like, it is ridiculous, right? I came from a music side of things. I was traditionally not that great in maths because I was too interested in music. As it turned out over the years, I actually am pretty good at math. But, I just wasn't paying attention in school. So anyways, you will probably not be cooked right away, but there will be some humility along the way. So whenever we start thinking, even after 18 years of doing this, whenever I start thinking, yeah, man, this is easy, the market is like, down you go, girl. And then it just smacks you right across the face. And then you're like, oh yeah, of course, risk management. So, it's intraday trading is kind of like the speed dating of investing, right? You have to do everything quicker. The decisions of whether to stay in a trade or not are faster, even with the kinds of trades that I do, because once I get to my problem levels, even if I'm in a lot of profit, what can happen is one Trump yap, right? One tweet from Mr. President, and he turns around all of these products that we're trading these days, and you lose out like 200 ticks in the space of like 2 minutes. So what worth is it that I held on to a trade for 3 hours when one single tweet can turn everything around? So obviously your decision making when that starts happening, if you are in a trade, it has to be quick. So it's kind of like the Olympics of investing. Any inconsistency that you have, whether it's the number of trades per day, position size, a stop loss size, losing control on one day, that can be like literally the difference between you having an account and not having an account. But the good thing about prop is that they take all the loss. So the only loss to you is whatever you effectively paid for these accounts, right? And it's peanuts compared to what you would need to actually fund yourself. That's why, prop firms are great for scaling up capital and also for your development, because you get to develop your skills in a high pressure environment without having to spend 10, 20K of your own money, right? So you can make all the mistakes, lose a few XFAs, and then go, okay, what else do I need to work on? And if you are an advanced trader, obviously you can scale up more, because, not many people have like endless amount of cash underneath their mattress. So, having the ability to go to a prop firm in order to scale the money that you have, that's a huge positive, right? Tostino says, I think the issue is I'm chasing losses from past accounts. Yes, that can definitely be an issue. So that will be related to past trauma. So if you think that you have some traumatic experiences, maybe look into EMDR. You can do it virtually, but I would suggest, if you can afford it, to do it with a therapist, because they can guide you better. It's really, really different. You just kind of doing it by yourself. versus a therapist actually guiding the whole process. So it's a very good way to get rid of trauma, or at least to minimize the traumatic response. But yeah, it has to be, you definitely have to tackle traumas. You can't just let them linger and trade from that side of you, because you're not going to be making good decisions. They will be emotional, and as soon as that happens, our prefrontal cortex, as Jerome likes to tell us, PFC, is out of commission at that point. So your rational thinking is not there anymore, and then you're just reacting from fear and doubt and trauma. So yeah, ain't trading fun. We have to be like singing Kumbaya and to really get to know each other. How do I feel about MACD? I have zero opinion on it or feelings. I don't use MACD. Even when I was a swing trader, I never used it. The closest thing that I would say that I'm using to something like MACD would be Fisher Transform. But that is a slightly different oscillator that uses Gaussian values. Kind of tries to predict the... but I have my own, before we carry on, I don't use it in a traditional sense. I have my own way of doing it. So I have my own defined values when it's oversold, overbought, but it's not much in the way of divergence. If I'm looking at divergences, I would rather look at something like open interest. So price going up, but the open interest fell. That can actually indicate that we had some short covering that won't last. So I'm not really in favor of things that are a little bit retail, and they're like, oh, it's a random oscillator. Because I've seen markets, like for example RSI, and people will be like, oh, RSI has climbed up to 80 on the daily chart. I'm going to short it. It's very overbought. And then they lose their shirt because the 80 stays for years, like absolute years. So then what? So I prefer pure price action. I prefer distribution curves. I prefer the TPO profile, open interest. I prefer, options levels, and then seeing how the market participants are actually behaving there. But that's me, All right, let's see. The best loser wins says, trading is not hard. Don't believe that, folks. Okay, so you talk to the 97% of people who keep failing, best loser wins, and go and tell them that. And then you're going to turn into a Lambo bro who's just going, oh, trading is so easy, man. Yeah. Nanka says, yeah, I have to stand when I trade. Sitting puts too much pressure on my brain. Interesting. For me, sitting up puts too much pressure on my blood pressure. Because I have orthostatic intolerance. But yeah, that's another thing. FX Trader says, when trading futures for days and weeks, you have to roll over the contracts. Sell old ones and buy new ones. I don't like doing that unless I'm going to be doing spreads or something. So if I'm trading, I will not initiate a multi-day swing position close to rollover. So for now, I have no swing positions or ideas in copper. Okay, this is purely an intraday trade on a new contract, and we'll see, what they want to do with it. But, the rollover is technically still sort of going on. Even though I think we've gone through the expiration, but sometimes people take a while to position themselves into a new contract. What am I looking for? Semi-HG. Okay. Yeah, so if we look at this, because, technically May doesn't really expire until May, but the volume is bigger in July. Skip it over June. This happens in commodities quite a bit. So yeah, we're going to see how they do this. I just realized looking at my stop on the other side. I'm not really that keen where my stop is. I don't know why I placed it there. Probably just being a bit sleepy, so I'm gonna let that happen and then maybe reevaluate. I'm still gonna be short because this is not gonna be a neutral day. We're running into a big POC level as well on the multi-week for 4-week volume profile. Anyways, July. So we have over 7,000 contracts already traded in July versus peanuts traded in May. So we've rolled, right? That's what the Topstep platform looks at. Now, what do we do with open interests? So you see, we lost 2,400 in open interest. That's not very conducive to a long. So yeah. Whenever we're losing, and what did we do on Friday? We went up, right? So we went up, but we lost 2,404. That's not a sign of a bull market anymore. So now I want to see what they're doing on the dome. There. Oh, I didn't open Bookmap today yet. That might be useful. But let's re-evaluate. However, we have a neutral day. I did say whenever you have a small initial balance, it's either going to be a massive trending day or a meh neutral day. I'm still going to look for shorts, maybe closer to settlement, which is at 490. What do we have up there? 490 is also GEX1. So let's maybe wait until we smash through the Asia high. Maybe Tokyo high. Because Asia high is all the way at 491. Well, I'm never going to find a trade during this stream. But yeah, let's at least maybe try to get the stop above this little high here. So let me just put a marker there. Where are the... this circle? There we go. Okay. So, whoa. All right. This is new. Okay, so I want to wait until this area is taken out, right? So once we have that, we'll be in a better position. We'll be closer to this supply up here and closer to 490, which is GX1. And then I'm going to fade it. So I'm going to wait until everybody else is stopped out and then go back in. Darth Buddha, that is because, so he's saying HG has an odd mini gap. That's a contract rollover. It's not a true gap. It's just, you know, they changed from K to N contract and then it created a gap, but it's not a true gap. Hustle B says, hi D, as a new starter with a prop firm, is it good to trade high volatility times like NYC opening or slower markets? I've been stung with high volatility, but it might be because the market... you know what? That would really depend on your preference, but since you say you were stung by high volatility, then I would just, you know, I would assume... then maybe your strategy doesn't work that well in high volatility times. At the very least, wait for like the first 30 minutes of the open if you're going to trade it. I like to wait for like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And even then, sometimes I will wait until the euro close before I even start doing anything with anything. Obviously, I'm doing these sessions, so that's... a different ball game because I was hoping we would get DAX, but we didn't. So now I'm stuck trading copper during these sessions. But my main thing for trading the London session is DAX, German 40. Used to be 30, now it's 40. So I had to find something that I would get involved in so that I wouldn't be just sitting here and never doing any trades. And I found copper. Like, copper tends to move pretty well. But even with that, I found that my own performance is only really kicks in at about 11 o'clock, which is in an hour. So, so there's that. Welcome to the live streaming live. But yeah, hopefully we get DAX at some point. I think it's got enough votes on that on that link. They're kind of saying July, but I'm kind of doubting that because I've seen them move it from March last year to June, then to July, then to end of September, then to end of November, then to end of the year, then end of February, and now it's end of July. So I'm very skeptical that Eurex will ever come to Topstep, but I'm kind of thinking if we are going to become an FCM, they're going to have Eurex data. You can't have people, coming to you as a, futures broker, and it's like, oh, where's Eurex? And they're like, we don't have it. It's like, you're a broker, you have to have them all. So it's going to have to be sorted out. Otherwise, what? We're going to be the only brokerage that only has CME contracts. It doesn't make much sense, but hey. All right. Is there any correlation between ES and one of the commodities? Avi wants to know. Not during London. So London sort of has its own, mindset, I suppose. And it doesn't really correlate much unless there's headline risk. So whenever there's headline risk, you can have this this situation where you have risk off sentiment. That would be equities going down, commodities going up. So that's like a traditional thing. And then vice versa, risk on will be equities going up and commodities falling. But those sorts of correlations are not like your everyday thing where it's like, oh yeah, it's risk on, risk off. It's literally just the times when something happens, like let's say somebody, decides to shut down one of the oil refineries, and then you see crude oil going into a big bull move. But because there was a conflict, it also causes some risk off. So people leave the equities and they jump into risk products such as gold, crude oil, things like that. So it's called risk off because you're effectively getting out of the stuff that normally works, which is equities and just keeps going up, and you're adjusting portfolio, not you, but like institutions. You're adjusting portfolio. They adjust their portfolios to match that risk that they currently see, right? And, vice versa, when everything is really good, let's say the tariffs, if we manage to sort out a deal with China or whatever, we're probably going to see equity soaring and gold and copper falling, right? So things like that. But is there any correlation that you could use intraday? Very rarely. Correlations between the products are more for long-term plays, not for people who are going to hold NQ for the next 3.5 seconds. You don't need correlations for that. Unpopular opinion. It's like, why do you need to stare at all the correlations when your whole trade for most of you just looking at your, because I'm a VIP coach here as well, and I have access to your stats, and just looking at your stats, it's like, what's the name of that cartoon? The Quick Draw McGraw, yeah? That'll be how I would characterize most people's trading. I'm in, and then 15 seconds later, I'm out. I'm in, I'm out. And you want correlations? Why? Just tell me why. Tell me why. All right, let's go. Connor, thank you for being here. Goodbye. Sleep well. John Henry with the classic, I never use a stop loss. Good luck with that, mate. Let me know next time a tape bomb hits and it goes for like, how much did ES go for? Let's go and see. Let's go and see. Was it this one? I think so. Let me look at the daily chart. You never use a stop loss. And then we get a day like this. So that's a great idea, isn't it? To not use a stop loss. If you're short, you're short, you're short, and then the market shoots up 2,500 ticks against you. Now, even if you were trading 1 micro, let's do some math. You'll be down 3,125. And I know some people that did this, actually. I had one guy in the VIP who decided to short it down here. He's in the hole by like 119 grand. So 3,000, if this sort of tape bomb happens and they just keep going and you're not using a stop loss. And on a real mini, you're losing 30 grand on that move. So John Henry, well done. Yeah, it's a great system to not use stop losses and then come into a public forum and announce that. Look, if you're an investor, that's a different calculation, right? That's not usually a leverage product when you're buying stocks outright. You're just assuming that your stop loss price is going to 0. It's a different calculation, right? But just don't talk about intraday trading and, just going, oh, I never use stop losses, because that's just stupid. I'm sorry. Oh, just playing. Okay. Sorry, sarcasm doesn't really come across in chat. So, my bad. Yeah, real man doesn't use stops. Yeah, well, I'm not a man, I'm a woman, and my balls are on the inside, but they're still quite big, I would reckon. They're kind of trying to go into a neutral day here now. Right, let's do some positioning here, because I still want to take a punt here just in case we do go short from here, but not with the full size. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a bigger stop that will encompass all of this. These are all old things from last week, because this is now a micro. Just going to put a marker here to remind me what the hell I'm looking at. Settlement was higher up, like up here. 490. Okay. So I'm in with 5 micros here because I want to use like a bigger, wider stop while I'm talking to you. And then also if we smash through that high that I'm looking at, I will be able to add and therefore improve my average and go to the 35 ticks stop, or at least like 45 or something, in case we get up there. But I still want to be involved, even if we kind of go down. Can we review corn? Honestly, I placed maybe 1 trade in corn, but we can. It's a market that has quite a lot of fundamentals to it, but let's do it. As always, when I'm starting on something new, I want to look at the weekly chart. So to me, this is now kind of a bit of a weak pullback. I don't know whether we're, close to harvest, whether, from what I know in futures, there are times of the year when there's like the harvesting and then they go to market, but I have no idea. Coach Hoop would be the one to ask there. But just purely technically, we are kind of heading up to the supply at 512.4. Let me look at the options activity. And then we can maybe figure out what the hell's going on with corn. Because with corn, you're sort of in it because you have to be in it, right? All right, let's have a look at corn. And it's in July. There it is, okay. Right, so we have some HVL areas, not here though, so there's one at 479 and another one up at 484. Kind of middle of nowhere. Gex 1 at 480, so maybe if we get there and then bounce from 480. Let's have a look at the daily charts. That looks a bit bearish to me, but as long as we hold the nearest reversal, that should be a demand area. So we'll see. So yeah, maybe 480 longs, but I have no idea. For corn, so Coach Hoop and Coach Jack are should be your choice, because they are the ones who know a lot about those products. I don't. I'm metals and gasoline and crude oil person. Best Loser Wins says, if you find myself invalid, what did you call me? If you find a setup, I would assume, invalid on the charts on this 5 micro long, will you proceed to cannonball 5 to 50 more micros on top while pinching your arse cheeks together, tightly hoping for BE? No, I never do that. I will stop and wait to see whether we can get some sellers involved. And because, I'm working from a larger time frame here, and I'm still thinking that the 4 overlapping values that we've had over the last 4 trading days is good enough. But higher up at 489.10 is where the true supply lies. Now with copper, it's pretty directional. So on a lot of the times, whenever I was waiting for a pullback, it would just go underneath the initial balance and keep going. So to me, it was actually worth it to try the momentum trade immediately on the break, knowing how copper behaves. But to me, this is a larger play, and I'm absolutely okay to wait for my setup later on this week. So I'm not just looking at today or even COMEX. I'm waiting until everything lines up. And then I have been known to run trades that recently with this volatility have gone to like 400 and 500 ticks in profit. So you are looking at too short of a time frame, and you are basing everything on one single trade, rather than looking at it as a bigger picture and looking at it as a story that develops over a number of days, which is what I do for any kind of swing trades. Do you ever look at silver? I look at the silver. I don't look at the gold to silver ratio because I find it unreliable. However, silver for these accounts, even micro silver, I feel since most people will be on, starting from 2K to 4.5K, I don't think that's a big enough account for silver. And this is why I don't really talk much about it, because once you get smacked in the face by silver because it starts really moving, you understand how volatile that product can be. Can you explain this 4-day overlap? I can, but I'm going to do it on my charts instead because it's not very clear. All right, so COMEX. If I point out to you that this was Tuesday value, that this was then Wednesday value area meaning the distribution curve of the regular trading session, aka where most of the business was transacted during the regular trading hours. If this is the third one, and if this is the fourth one, tell me what you see. If I extend them all, what do you see? What are the distribution curves doing? They're overlapping. This is why it's possible that we get up to the 490 area, even maybe smack through the Globex open high, which is up at 92.17, but I remain a bear for now because of this. So until we break one of the days where we're completely clear to the upside, that would be my sign to change my stance, because I would be like, okay, maybe that was a reaccumulation before further upside. As it stands now, this has a 70% chance of turning into a liquidation. So I want to be involved in it, and I'm actually willing to get smacked on the face several times to actually get my big move. And then for the rest of the week, usually the way copper is, it gives you opportunities to that same side because they kind of keep running it for several days. It's just how copper is. It's more directional than some of the other markets, but that is the gist of it. So if you see here, even though it was in a bull trend, and then it turned around, somebody got liquidated up here, and then it just started going and going and going. And for several days, I didn't need to think about changing anything. It was really quite obvious. So to me, it's not about, oh, you lost one trade. No, it's can I identify the start of the swing that will serve me well for the next several days or even a couple of weeks. But that's what I was looking at. I was looking at the overlapping value areas, which are the distribution curves for the regular trading hours. Let's get back to Topstep. I haven't had a look at platinum. Platinum has been a little bit annoying because it has a trend, but haphazardly so. What I don't want to see on platinum is that it does these overlapping candles. That's never a good thing on platinum. And for some reason, let me just check something. For some reason, they've been very slow during London. It used to be pretty good for London. Now, platinum has fallen. Let me just find it. So while gold is still, doing a lot of things, platinum has fallen down to sub 200 ticks per the entire day, and it's fallen to 126 ticks and down to 113 respectively for London and COMEX. That's kind of low for what I'm looking for. So until that changes, until we get an expansion of the range, I'm not really interested in it. I don't like when I'm getting involved in something and I'm looking at how the candles are looking. I don't like seeing inside bars and stuff. So let's say if I'm looking at this move, I don't want to see inside bars and then me going long. I want to see nice momentum building from one end to the other, and then we've got something. And similar here. You know, if we've got inside bars, like here, not good. Once it starts to break away from that area, we have no more inside bars. Like, for example, these two are the first two that don't have an inside bar. And then it just picks up speed. So that's what I want to see. If you don't see that, you're probably looking at a more slower movement, so limited auction, or some kind of a range. But yeah. Vara Mehir says, if everyone can trade on Globex, why are there different sessions in different markets? Because there's the London Exchange, which operates from London, therefore London hours. Then there's New York Exchange that operates on the New York hours. And then there's the Asia Exchange that operates on shock horror, Asia hours. People live in different parts of the world, but they still want to trade various markets. So the countries where their markets are transacting, they have their own respective exchanges, right? Now, some of them are CME, but a lot of them are not. You know, for example, we have NKD, the Nikkei, which is effectively a derivative of the Osaka contract. So this is why I see low volume, and yet, you know, NKD goes on these like beautiful runs. It's like, where's that volume coming from? Well, it's coming from the fact that we're really trading the derivative of Osaka contract, which runs on the Tokyo Exchange, right? Darth Bullet says, I avoid the micros. That's your prerogative. I don't have a problem with micros because of the amount of tickets that I take. So, you know, paying a little bit more extra commission is not a big deal. But also, sometimes I will mix minis and micros as well. So I'm in with 5. But let's say that this kind of keeps going nicely, and I find a new setup for COMEX, and I'm still in this, I might plop in a full 1 mini. So then I'm in with 1.5 contracts rather than full 2, which controls my downside a little bit better. And there are 2 separate trades as well that I can visualize pretty well. Yeah, CME is Chicago. So yeah, there's that as well. America's pretty big. So you have Chicago, which is a hub of prop trading, but you also have quite a few exchanges that are located in New York as well. They each had their own respective hours. So, yeah. No, your exits. Okay, best loser wins seems to be having a seizure. Can we slow it down on the capitals, please? And best loser wins. Are you okay? Because you seem to have suddenly gone on a bit of a rant. So, yeah. Something is happening on NASDAQ. What is that all about? What's the time? Well, let's see. Trump to me, that is from last week. There's nothing. Nothing. There's nothing. Yeah. It's probably just the Americans waking up. So this is what happens around about this time. What tends to happen around 6 a.m. Across the pond is that you start getting people who are getting ready for pre-market activities, and sometimes they will put in their positions. So naturally you see the expansion of the volume, which some people like to interpret as, oh my God, is this news? It's not news. Okay. Yeah, it's not news. I'm not saying anything. I just wanted to give it a couple of minutes there to see whether something's up. No, nothing. So yeah, it's just going to be the typical sort of Monday, let's wake up and do some trading. But yeah. Hey, Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie is here. Are you back from holiday? From vacation? Getting back into the swing, so starting with Deeyana, always on the list. Thank you. Very good. Awesome to see. Anne-Marie, so what people don't know is that I used to listen to her and watch her back in the day. And I thought, wow, how cool, another woman in the industry. She's awesome. I mean, never in a million years would I think that we would be doing interviews and webinars together. It's so cool. Elon has changed the world. Yeah, I would say in more ways than one. There was this funny meme that my husband sent me, but it's really not. I'm going to explain it, not show it, because I don't want to get in trouble. It was basically, you remember the mini-me, and it was Elon with Trump as the mini-me. So that's what my husband sends me in his spare time. 2 trades says AD, do you have gold levels for support? I don't really have. I haven't been looking at gold recently. I've got to say it's not really been my favorite market currently. But I mean, support levels. Yeah, let's have a look. Let's get another chart here. Get off corn. So again, weekly. This looks a bit toppy. Oh dear, this looks like an evening start to me. I mean, we've just started the week, but I wouldn't, yeah. Okay, so if we go below 32.68, I would think twice whether to keep longing gold at this time. Maybe if we get down to like closer to 3,000, 3,004, because that's where the previous demand areas are. But at these levels, the way this looks with a selling wick, I'd be a little bit careful. Let's have a look at some options. Let's have a look. And did I get the contract right? So why didn't that work? What's going on? I don't know, I can't, for some reason it won't drag out the data, so never mind. Yeah, so to me, I wouldn't be looking for longs here. And also, let's see what the profile is doing. For now, it's attempting to fail the auction to the upside, but hitting a demand area. So not looking the best. We're below VWAP. Currently inside the COMEX value from Friday. which is located between 32.85 and 33.05. If we go above that and above VWAP, which is pretty close, maybe there's longs to be had, but yeah, I would be a bit careful with gold today. We're also coming into the end of the month, right? So we have literally like 2 more days. That can bring some unwinding of the positions in some cases, especially on things like gold and equities, because they're traditionally a part of like portfolio theory and portfolio management. And therefore, at the end of the month, the big institutions actually have to rebalance their portfolios, and that can bring some really horrendous moves and rebalancing into consideration. So be careful if you see that. Gold is known by going to like smash down like 100 points like it's nothing, at least 70, which is 700 ticks, so it's a lot. Anne-Marie says, totally agree on gold. I suspect it fades to 29.30. 29.30. Yeah, I can see 29.30. Definitely. Because looking at the daily chart, that is where the demands are. 29.30, that's exactly where it came from. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit careful on gold. What did I just do? I have no idea. Somehow I managed to grab the edge of my dome. I suspect there's dust in my mouse. Never mind. Okay. All right, so we are in this short on micro copper. And we're going to wait to see what's going to happen. So tagging VWAP right now. Let's see if we can get a nice big swing out of it today. Is there anything else? YM is kind of tagging a 4-hour supply. But I'm kind of bullish on equities. I don't, at this point, I wouldn't be shorting them. So that's kind of clashing. All right. How are we doing for time? We've got about 20 minutes left. Is copper going to make a move, or is it going to wait till COMEX? That is the question. For now, it's dipping below this put support level. And if that goes, that would be pretty good. I just need to let one of the dogs out because she's a bit antsy. She wants to go outside. Right, I'm back. This is what happens with 8 dogs. 2 of them want to go out, 3 of them want to come back in. I'm just a dog doorman. That is my main day job. Never mind trading. Trader Chamber. Okay, thanks. A follow-up question. When do we know that whales are getting in the market? So usually on Bookmap, you will see a sweep and then like followed by very big bubbles and quite possibly exhaustion of the opposite side as well. What does that mean? It means that they are trying to pick up the speeds the opposite way, but they're just not successful. Price is not reacting, and therefore you get the absorption of either buyers or the sellers. When it comes to the pure price action, I would think that the best way to see them would be through single prints, which is similar to whatever the kids are calling it now, which is basically a single print, but FVGs, like fair value gaps, it will leave some sort of a hole, a gap, upon leaving that area. So it usually begins with like a really strong decision and a decisive move that that then just continues and is relentless, and that is usually the unwinding of the positions. So yeah. Future Trader 33, 8 dogs, question mark? Yes, 8. I live with 8 dogs and a husband, yeah. Best loser wins. I hate that crap. Listen, so do I. I'm old school. I'm profile. I'm, But hey, if you've got 1 million people who have been watching him, and if we're now calling single prints FVGs, it's fine. It's all the same thing anyways. So does it really matter what we call it? It's the same thing. It's a big move outside of an area that holds into a Maribozu. It's the same thing. Pi says, best loser wins. Put down the Adderall, buddy. Red Riot says, what is your monthly dog food bill? Well, they're not like Alsatians, right? They're Cavapoms, Cavaliers, and Pomeranians. So they are, from small to medium dogs. And I say medium because 2 of them are Cavapoms still. They're littermates, but they're massive for what they should be. They literally tower over their parents. And I'm like, what are you guys? What kind of freaks the freak genes did you pick up? So apart from them 2, the rest of them are sort of like small-ish size. And the food bill, I mean, I'm not somebody who takes care of every single piece of budget for dog food, but let me think. So I would imagine it's probably, probably about 300 to 400 pounds a month. I'm in London, so it's obviously pounds. Although these days we don't really have that much of a difference between the dollar and the pound, so yeah. Well, we have 6 littermates, Wizard TP, because we wanted to have more pups, and while I'm waiting, let's talk about something else, right? So while we were doing the scan, the girl said, oh, we can definitely see 2. So I'm like, okay, 4 dogs. I can do 4 dogs. That'd be cool. I always wanted more dogs. And, I tried to adopt a whole bunch of them. But unfortunately, during COVID, everybody, all the rescue centers were really horrible. I have no kids. I have a secure garden that's well over 6-foot fences. I don't, okay, there were 2, there was a dog living here, but he was he's meek and mild and awesome, right? And then nobody would come back to me. They were just not suitable, not suitable. So is it because the dogs are dog aggressive? I don't know. But they're like, oh, they have to live alone. And then it's do you have children? I was like, no, it's just me and my husband. How long do you spend outside of the house? Not long at all. In fact, I don't go anywhere. I'm almost a hermit woman at this point, apart from the dog walking and some grocery shopping. But even that I get delivered. And none of them would classify us as a suitable home. So I don't know what that was all about. And we got lucky to find a half rescue Pomeranian who was being bounced between different homes and about to get taken into a rescue center for no reason whatsoever, for no fault of her own. She was lovely. She was 18 months. And then we decided to buy her off the family. Drove to Liverpool for like 5 hours there and back to pick her up. And her and my other dog, surviving dog, because I had another one and then he was very sad that we lost our senior dude. They just got on like a house on fire. He totally forgot about the other dog in an instance. So after a year of having her, we decided to let them mate to have more puppies because we couldn't find any rescues that would give us more dogs. So yeah, the scan said we can see 2. On the day 6 came out. So obviously it was half locked down still. It was like the end of 2021. And it was touch and go whether we're going to have another lockdown. Because there was like another type of COVID kicking around. And, we didn't make any preparations to like sell them on or whatever. And as they were coming out, we were naming them. That was it. So at one point there was a slim chance that there was going to be only 5, and then 2 hours later our Astrid Mimi came out, and she was the runt. She had something wrong with her jaw. Obviously our biggest boy Bernard ate all the food, and she ended up with some scraps, but she ended up being fine. She is very lively. She just has a big overbite, so her tongue keeps, like, it's so cute. I know it's a genetic problem, but her tongue keeps, like, it's always outside of her mouth. So she just constantly looks like a teddy bear. And we just couldn't give them away. So I was like, okay, 8 dogs. I mean, what the hell else am I doing in life at this point? I sadly did get sick that same year, but that's another story. And we're now a crazy house of 8 dogs. So, yeah. We just bought a new house. I'm actually getting ready to move. We're ready, so we have 80 boxes, and we bought a beautiful countryside house, farms both sides, private secure dog walking field that you can pay for, literally down the road, 2 minutes down the road, and then like 3 others, 10 minutes drive. But this one is really close. It's in the same area. And it's like a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom place. Single story, so no stairs for me, which is awesome. Reasonably sized garden. It's not too big. I think it's about half an acre or so. But it's enough for them to run around. So I should be moving there. Quite possibly next week, next Friday at some point. We were supposed to move last week, but then our solicitors changed their name from partnership to a limited liability company and screwed everything up. So I'm not very happy about that. I've been very anxious. Just trying to, I want to be in the new house. And it's like, come on, really? Dealing with lawyers is very, very difficult. Wes says, used to have Labrador Retriever. Love those dogs. Yeah, they eat everything. My husband had labs when he was growing up. And now kids have a couple of rabbits. Don't mix well with dogs at the moment. It's funny. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Best Loser Wins says, sounds lovely. We need a vlog once you have all the farm animals going. I'm not going to have farm animals. I'm not going to be a farmer D. I'm going to be a country bumpkin D, but not a farmer. That's really not like me. And getting up like to be a farmer, you have to get up really early. I struggle with getting up at 8. So, and as a farmer, you have to get up at like 5 and stuff. The 2 farms that are adjacent, they're not ours. They're other people's. And they have like cows and sheep and stuff. So they do sometimes come up to the fence because we actually saw them. Every time we were there, they were either in the distance or they were just like kind of walking around. Now, I don't know how my dogs are going to behave. They're not too happy with the foxes out the back here. They bark at horses on the TV. So, watching any sort of an animal program, nature, Nat Geo programs, forget it. I can watch it on my phone. Otherwise, 3 of them are just going to be barking at whatever. So I don't know. There's going to have to be some retraining there. But I just want to start that sort of next chapter. I'm sick of London. I'm sick of single lanes that you can't drive in anymore. We used to have these like bus lanes, and they used to be open for a certain part of the day, like outside of the rush hour. Now, London is all just like a single lane city. You can't go into them because they are closed at all times. So if you go in there, you're going to get a ticket. So now I have to like sit in traffic, like, I literally, if I want to pop out to buy something in a shop up the road, I'm better off walking, but I have an energy problem. So I can't, if I walk and it's up the hill, that's like 6 of my spoons gone for the day. And then I can just go and lay in bed and that's my day. So, it's a big problem for me. And we just decided, I think it was about 2 years ago, that we're going to be moving out of London. And then our house needed to, we've had to like repaint the walls and make it all like nice and cute. We replaced the floors. In fact, last year when I was doing the floors, I started doing the London session. So I was streaming from a laptop down the road from like a co-working space. They have like meeting offices. And then there was this guy next door in another meeting room that would not shut up. He just kept like talking really loudly. And I remember I was trying to be on fast markets, and it was so disruptive. So I had to keep myself muted for most of the time. That was fun. And once I move to the new house, I'm going to have to get Starlink like immediately. I might be able to do it via the phone, but the coverage is not as good as here. Like here I can easily run 5G, not a problem. Over there it's like literally middle of nowhere. So the mast for the phone thing, the cell phone mast is probably not going to be that close. So coverage is going to be okay. Now, I don't know whether that means I'm going to have to sit outside and do the stream from the outside. Let's hope it's not raining. Michael Winner once said, "Did you know for just £65 you can drive in any bus lane in London? Bargain!" Do you know what, Paul? I actually agree with that statement, because sometimes I just can't be bothered and I will drive in a bus lane. It's not like it's points, right? If I'm like running red lights and stuff, that would be a problem. But it's just like one fine. But if you're going to do it every day, that gets a little bit expensive at some point. But yeah. Trade with Ajaz. Finally, the Sorry house has been in the works since I first... Yeah, no, there's another one, but that's like... It's a rental at this point, so yeah. Different properties, right? So we are now moving the primary residence, finally, so yeah. Would you move to America? No. I wouldn't like the hours, because I tried that. Every time I was there, I was really struggling because, I'm more of a night owl, and I like the fact that, I can have some time to wake up and to, like, if I wasn't running the London streams, I would start my day at like 11. And, yeah, that's like my natural time when my brain starts working. And yeah, I also don't like certain parts of how America is run. Like, for example, over here you have NHS, right? National Health Service. And it doesn't matter what happens to you, they will see you for no cost. You can go private, that's your prerogative. But if something happens and you need to be seen by a doctor, and you need to have scans, and you need to have, some procedures, they will see you, and they won't charge you for it because it's covered by the national insurance. Over in America, it's like, If you don't have insurance, you're basically screwed. I really don't like that. I think it's gotten a little bit better over the years, but it's a lot more like business-like than it is over here. Over here, I still believe it's more to do with let's help everybody as much as we can, even if they don't have the cash. Some other aspects is the guns. I'm really against people having guns. Why? Because I come from Yugoslavia, so I don't know how many people know this. Those of you who have been with me, you probably know. I'm not a native English person, so I am a naturalized British person. So my English is pretty good, and I'm probably bilingual at this point, but it's not my first language. I grew up, born and raised in Belgrade, former Yugoslavia, that then became Serbia. We had 3 civil wars, and I've seen the damage that guns can do. Now, over there, you have people who, like any man who's between the ages of 18 and 65, is basically military reserve, because we used to have compulsory army. So most people had guns, and at one point it wasn't well regulated. So you used to have people who have post-traumatic stress from coming back from the wars, and they would flip out and kill their entire family just because, right? So that kind of bred a really huge discomfort in me towards any sort of guns, and I'm a pacifist at my core because of it. I think people take guns for granted, and then at one point I wanted to get a gun because everything was getting really dangerous and I was doing these gigs. But I had a friend who worked security. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he worked for like special forces and then went into private security after he came back. And he said to me, listen, unless you have the actual training to go along with you owning a gun, you are likely not going to be able to recognize a situation where you would need a gun. And by the time that you do, it will be too late. So he said, I can absolutely teach you what to do with a gun, but just know that I don't think it's a good idea. So I thought about it and I was like, you know what? He's probably right. So I decided against it. And, you know, ever since they've regulated the guns, you know, over there, so you can't just randomly carry a gun without like some heavy licensing. You know, in a psychiatric exam, and, you know, a police officer comes to your house and all of that. But in America, like, it seems like everybody in most states can just walk up into a shop and just go, I want to buy a gun. I have a problem with that. You know, you send a kid to school. I have no kids myself, but I would never be happy if I didn't know that my child is safe in the school. Like, my sister has 2. You know, I watched them grow up. And honestly, like, like, what are we doing? It's like, oh, the right to carry arms. It's fine, but where's the training behind it? And why isn't that regulated to a point that it's not so easy to have a gun? So those are some of the issues that I have with, you know, living in the States. So no, I wouldn't move to America permanently. I can go and visit, but, you know, it wouldn't be my choice. If I were to move anywhere, like for retirement, it would probably be like Spain. Or maybe Norway. I hear Norway has like excellent old people's homes. This is where my brain is. What is Granny D gonna do in her old age when she's alone and old? Yeah, exactly. So Paul H says, I was horrified when an American buddy told me he drove himself to the hospital with chest pains because an ambulance is $500. Yeah, exactly. Anne-Marie says, I totally agree with your special forces friend. Training is very important. Yeah. Tostino says, Dee, the way you hold yourself seems to have already spoken to your life experiences. I hope that's a positive thing. South of Spain, Marbella is my retirement spot. Nice, nice. I would say Marbella is still too much of a party town for me. Not out of season. Out of season is pretty dead, but yeah, long gone Norway. Yeah, exactly. So it's funny because I have a best friend from school. Now, we're the same age, so we're both going to be 45 this year. And she doesn't have kids either. And her husband is also a little bit older than her. So we were like thinking, because she lives in the States. She lives in, I think she's in Virginia right now. Is she? No, hold on. I think they moved to. They might have moved. They might have moved to Washington D.C., but don't quote me on that. So she was, talking to me, and she's like, "So, what are you planning?" Like, it was a random conversation that we like to have, and she was like, "So, what are you planning for, for retirement? Like, where?" I was like, "It's a random question, Maria." And she goes, "Yeah, because I was thinking, you don't have kids, I don't have kids, and in about 15, 20 years time." Maybe we can just go to an old people's home together. I was thinking Norway. So I had the same question. Why Norway? And she said, "Oh, the care homes are like the best." So I looked into it, and I was quite surprised. Some of the other places you're kind of cared for, but it's a tiny little room with other people, quite likely, and it's just a bit weird. But in Norway, they have like proper little apartments. So it's kind of like a service department with nurses, which is great. So yeah, maybe in about 30 years, maybe not 15 or 20 like Maria was saying, but yeah, 30 years, I could see myself doing that. What time does London open EST? Give me a second. 3 a.m. EST. Yeah, Anne-Marie says funny things women talk about. Exactly. Talking about old people's homes. All right, so I'm going to sit on this trade now. It's doing okay, 31 ticks, but I would like to see more volume, which is probably not going to happen until another hour or the closer we get to COMEX, the more volume increase we're going to find. And for now, 31 ticks is all I'm getting out of this, but I'm going to keep it open because this is on the XFA, and I'm going to just wait to see what they want to do with this particular move. I'm going to switch to a 4-hour chart now and go and do some other things. I'm going to go have some food, maybe another coffee. I do need to get the dogs out at some point today. I took them for a beautiful woodland walk. In the new area, I actually drove for an hour to get there and back, but they loved it. It had like a little puddle in there with a little stream. It was all woodland, so that's going to be our new dog walking area. All secure, so you pay for it, and then you go in there, and then you have it all for yourself. So I don't have to worry about other people. I don't have to worry, like Hermit Lady D can just have her quiet time without worrying about it. Anyways, let's see what this corporate does. Keep in mind those overlapping values and invalidation points if we get them. If not, this looks to be setting up like a pretty juicy swing. In the meantime, enjoy the main broadcast. I will see you again tomorrow for another Euro trade. Until then, start slow. Size down, slow down. Size down, slow down. So, we need to name this guy. This is going to be my parrot for sizing down and slowing down. Peck, 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 peck. And if you don't, this guy is going to come and get you, right? He's going to come and peck at your head until you size down and slow down. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your day. Let's see what this week brings. It is the end of the month, so be careful of those unwinding moves. I'm Marcus Stalker D. This has been the Euro Trade. I will see you tomorrow. Take care.